Why is it that silence is so deafening? Sitting alone in our own space with no one around, no distraction, no noise, just us. What makes that so frightening, so scary, so vulnerable? Hi, I'm Kelly, and welcome back to another episode of Redefining Moments, where I help you and myself and hopefully others change their perception of reality. Not to change ourselves, but to go out into the world with more possibility, wonder, and vulnerability. So today I want to explore the power of silence and why it is so deafening. I have been single for a long time, I would say, on and off, but most of my 20s and into my early 30s. And yet I have never been alone. So I say that. I've had moments, but I've always lived with other people. I've never been in a situation where I've lived fully alone, fully by myself. And I've been tempted by those silent retreats where you can't talk to anyone or interact, because I'm someone who clearly loves talking. But I have this curiosity of, like, who am I under the surface? Who am I beyond my voice? And I think my previous episode touches on going through heartbreak recently and rediscovering myself following love, following being more vulnerable and experiencing heartbreak and loss. And I think for the first time in my life, there is a deeper sense of longing. So whenever I'm alone at the moment, whenever I'm in the silence, that's where I feel my most pain. And I've had moments like that in the past. So a couple of years ago, I decided for my 30th, I was going to ditch my 30th birthday party and plans, and I was going to go to Italy for 8 weeks by myself and just travel. And what I learned through that was sometimes you can be alone, but I was never lonely. Because I was in solitude with myself, it encouraged me to step outside of myself. It encouraged me to have conversations I wouldn't have had if I was with someone I knew, someone who I was comfortable with. It encouraged me to get on the back of a stranger's motorbike and explore Tuscany through their perspective and eyes. I met so many wonderful people through that experience, through chatting to people in hostels, through having strangers come up to me and just tell me how lovely it was to see me speaking to other people. And I wasn't closed off. I wasn't stopping myself from welcoming in these spaces, but I was still within the safety of being on holiday, of traveling, solo traveling. I wouldn't even say it was a holiday, it was solo traveling. I was still within the safety of that, of the permission slip, I guess it allowed me to be, because I was someone who was traveling. I was able to explore myself through adventure and possibility. And there was an excitement within that. There was an opportunity to know myself and understand myself and to be curious in a fun and exciting way. But this last couple of days, I've had a really busy weekend. I've spent time with friends. It's the first time I've really stepped out of myself. After winter, I thawed off. The sun started coming out. You know, social life kind of starts to begin in the spring. And it was the first time I've really spent time with people in a while, because I've been enjoying my own company. I've been spending a lot of time tapping into my hobbies, just enjoying myself, and also learning about myself again after heartbreak, after pain, after feeling deep, vulnerable parts of myself. It's been a time for me to tap back into who I am and really sit with those messy and horrible moments. But my friend came to visit this weekend. I've had a busy weekend, And my family are currently on holiday, so my parents and my family. So I call this my another type of holiday for me, because it's me allowing myself to experience life living alone. But because of that, because I've had a busy weekend, to suddenly be thrown in the deep end of being alone, it's quite noisy. And what I've noticed is, like, my house is very creaky, and there are noises in this house that sounds like people are in here. And in this beautiful kind of metaphor, I'm hearing the noises more clearly, but the fear is coming to the surface. I'm like, oh, what was that? Who's there? Is somebody in the house? And I pause the TV and I listen intently, because I'm like, somebody's here. I'm going to die. Haven't done that in a while, actually, but yesterday it felt particularly, like, because I've been busy, it felt very, very strong. But I found this quite a beautiful metaphor, because what I realised is that is what a life without distraction feels like. At first, it's scary because you hear all the noises, you hear all the internal monologues, and you're like, oh my God, this is awful, I'm going to die. But in truth, you're not going to die. What this is teaching us is, it's just listening and kind of going, oh, okay, no, that was just the boiler. I have nothing to worry about. And by putting ourselves in these spaces more frequently, by putting ourselves in silence or vulnerable situations outside of our comfort zone, what we're doing is we're teaching our brain, actually, oh wow, that wasn't as dangerous or scary or as risky as I originally thought it was. It's actually just a sound. And it almost takes away the I can't think of the word, but like the inflammation, the agitation, the sensitivity to the meaning that we place on something, by exposing ourselves to more of these experiences. And sometimes in life, like, there are moments where you get used to being in your own company by yourself. And I found that last year, I was at a point where I felt so good in my own company. I felt really safe and secure and happy, and generally like, yeah, I know how to live this life. And then I had probably a 9-month period of being very close and intensely associated to a group of people in my life. And I felt really amazing, and even better because it was added layer to the beauty that I'd found from being single, the love, the compassion, the just energy I found from being by myself. It was expanded through these beautiful people in my life, friends, relationships, whatever it was. I felt like everything was an expanded version of me. But then after that ended, after my life kind of got, what I would say, torn apart, and the pieces were ripped apart in front of me, and I had to rebuild my life again, it was a lot harder to sit within the silence. It was painful to sit in the silence, because I now had a version of reality behind me that I longed for, that showed me the best version of me. And now I'm back to square one again. But in reality, I wasn't back to square one, and I'm still not back to square one. I'm just another evolved version of myself, and I'm having to relearn what that looks like within my life. Because yes, I was this strong, bold, independent person, but really underneath the surface, I wasn't very healed. There was parts of myself that I hadn't realised were there until I went through my experiences, until I went through the cycle of building a relationship, building incredible connections, and then having to bear the loss of that. And also the pain and the parts of myself that I didn't really like that came to the surface as a result of that as well. By going through those experiences, I leveled up. I learned more and I've gained more. But at the same time, I feel vulnerable. I feel empty. I feel sad. I don't always like my life at the moment. And yeah, there's something kind of magical within that, because yes, I don't like my life at the moment, but then I also do. It's very complex because I can see the sides of myself I miss, and I miss the version of me that is in love. I miss the version of me that bounces back from another person, that has this ability to love deeply. And I still get to do that in my life, but it's not the same. It's not the same. I'll be honest. I've been saying to people for years, oh, you need to learn to love yourself first. You need to learn to be happy with who you are. And I learned that. I really did. But I'd be lying if I said, actually, it's perfect. Because it's not. I think what I've learned the most through my experiences this past year and through pain and actually my honesty is I know myself more than I ever have. I love myself more than I ever have. And I'm taking steps in my life that I was too afraid to take before. This podcast episode, applying for a TED Talk, I'm doing workshops in the summer. Like, I'm finally doing the things I've always wanted to do. And that's giving me a sense of life and purpose and meaning. And I feel so happy and excited. But then there's a huge part of me that's still miserable. Why? Why am I still miserable? And it's because I miss being in love. I miss loving. I miss being a part of something. And I am a part of something. I'm a part of the human race. I'm a part of this world. I'm a part of this planet. But I'm not going to lie. There are reasons movies are made about love. There are reasons that there are so many songs and poems and things in our lives that are designed around love. Because there is something about it. There is something about being connected to other human beings and being able to be a full of expression of yourself with them. But I think the problem with so many of us, and it's not a problem, it's just part of our human existence, is we want love so badly that we are willing to sacrifice ourselves in the process. And I think that's where I finally am. And I know I touched upon this again in the last episode. I'm finally at a point where I don't want to sacrifice myself anymore. I don't want to lose myself. I don't want to trade who I am for love. I want love to be my existence. Love is me. I am love. We are all love. Love is not a human right. It's our existence. It's our very being. We have so much love to offer this world, even through how I'm speaking right now. It's love. It is love. Because there's passion, there's presence, there's enthusiasm, there's intimacy through this connection, even though there's a microphone, even though there's a screen between us or whatever there is between us. There is still a level of shared connection through this moment. There is love being transferred from me to you in this moment. There's something beautiful about that. But there is still... I guess that is actually what I'm learning at the moment. And I think what I'm learning through speaking to you in this episode, in this moment, is maybe that's what love is. Maybe love is just about being present. The intimacy of being in this moment and connecting to you in this moment, sharing my passion, my excitement, my enthusiasm, sharing my insights and wisdom with you. That's love. That is love. But a lot of what I've learned about love is very much through, and excuse my way of saying this because I cringe in saying this, but the heteronormative perspective of society. I grew up thinking that the way to love somebody is through being worthy enough, being valuable, being good enough, through being physically desirable, to be pretty enough, to be charming enough, to be helpful enough, kind enough. But what is enough? Because if I'm honest, I've had enough of the concept of enough. Enough suggests that there's always something you can be better at. And there's a part of me that I like that. I think there is always something we can be better at. But enough needs to come from a place of curiosity and desire and exploration of, hey, I don't have enough wisdom. I want more. Let's go out and find it. I don't have enough love in my life. How can I go out and be love? How can I go out and be an expression of love? Hey, I don't have enough friends in my life. How can I go out and be friends with more people? It should be the base of a question, not the thing that determines our worth. Enough should not be associated to my value or my worth as a human being, or yours. Enough should be the question of, where should I get to in my life? At what point do I feel capable? At what point do I feel worthy? At what point do I feel valuable? And the thing is, that's endless. And this is what I'm learning through my own journey. It's an endless discovery of myself and who I can be in this world. That's where enough is. It will never be enough because I get to grow every single day. I get to go out into the world and discover me every single day. I hope it's never enough. I really do. I hope my life will never reach that point where it feels like it's enough. So when I look back at the last year, when I look back at the moments where I felt the most peace in myself, that was it. That's what I felt, was peace. I didn't feel like I had to chase that concept of enough anymore. I didn't feel like I had to chase this idea of being better, being perfect, being complete, because that's the sense of enough I've been chasing. Whereas when I feel happy and fulfilled and valued within my life, it's because I've reached a perspective of curiosity. I want to know more because I'm looking at my life from the perspective of there is so much more to know, there's so much more to understand, there's so much more to experience in life. Because life is incredible. We get to experience it. Rather than being like, how can I live life to live up to this expectation? And that all started from me talking about silence. How funny. But I just want to add, the reason I was talking about the topic of silence is because life feels so noisy. Life feels like we're constantly needing to distract ourselves because sitting in silence is so uncomfortable for so many of us. I think there was a study, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not quoting it, I'm not labeling it as my own, but there was a study supposedly where people would choose electric shocks over sitting alone with their own thoughts. So people would rather suffer and experience pain than sit alone with themselves. So what's that suggest about our lives? The things we would be willing to do to our mind, body, and character in order to avoid silence, in order to avoid ourselves. And what are we running from? when I think about that, I think it's quite sad. It's quite sad that we would rather experience pain, external pain, than the pain of boredom, the pain of not knowing where life will go, not knowing the power of our own minds, our own thoughts. The thing I've learnt today, and my last few episodes have come from this, the more we sit in our silence, the more we unlock. Today, I have had some of the most powerful perspectives. I've had some of the most powerful perspectives I have had in a long time. I feel like I have healed massively today because I sat in silence. And you know what? I feel the most like myself than I have in weeks. Because instead of sitting in the noise and the distraction and the messiness of life that I'm trying to project externally, I've actually just sat with myself. I've let my thoughts run the course that they've needed to. And I found the answers. I found the answers that I needed to hear. Because I sat in the silence. And sometimes that silence was me on my phone. Sometimes that was me scrolling. Sometimes that was me doing my errands. But the moments I wanted to distract myself, I decided not to. I decided to explore it more deeply. And I just went with the flow. And this is the result of it. This is the result of it. And do you know what? I feel so incredibly powerful right now. I feel so me and grounded. And I feel like I've had some incredible insights that I've been able to share with you through just talking, through just expressing. And if it wasn't me also being willing to share my vulnerability and be authentic and be open and be my full expression of me, I wouldn't have reached these perspectives either. And I wouldn't have shared them with you. It's kind of crazy. It really is, because it's actually quite simple. It's as simple as just being willing to open yourself up and just seeing what comes of it. And actually, I've really enjoyed recording this. I've really enjoyed having this conversation today because I know, I feel there's a level of love and joy that I've been, okay, let's be honest. I've been feeling sorry for myself. There, I said it. I've been feeling sorry for myself for weeks. Sitting in the silence, actually, I say weeks, months, probably my whole entire life. Let's say it. Let's be honest. And today, sitting in the silence, sitting with myself, and then sharing my vulnerability, sharing my thoughts and insights with you, it's got me out of my head a bit. It's allowed me to take my experiences and make it meaningful. It's allowed me to share what I've learned through my own journey, to share my mind with the world, because it gets very crowded and noisy and tiring up there. And I know I'm not alone in this. I have a lot of friends who are the same, and I'm pretty sure we're not alone in that either. So I've got out my own way today. I've been having a pity party for myself. I've been feeling miserable. I've been feeling like, oh, woe is me. Love doesn't exist. I'm lonely. I'm single again. I've gone through the same experience and patterns over and over again. And I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And I generally don't want to be going through this anymore. But really, I love my life. My life's exhausting. And I think this is where we have to get out of our own way. We need to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. Because, quite frankly, it's exhausting. And when we actually realise that there is so much love we can offer through connection, through being present in our lives, then maybe we can take the time away from our own pity parade, that we can actually see that life really isn't that bad to begin with. And if it is bad, like, it's an experience, it's a moment. But that goes back to my other lessons of, what is this moment teaching me? And does it even have to be a lesson at the moment? Because that is also another thing I've learned, is that actually sometimes I'm too busy trying to find the lesson in the moment that I'm just not letting the moment be. Because actually, maybe that's another thing I've learned today about sitting in the silence. I'm someone who's constantly trying to solve problems and fix my life. And actually, sometimes just sitting in the silence and going, hold on a second, I don't know what to do with my day. I don't know what to do with my life. I have no idea where this is going. I have no idea what is happening. Probably also sounds the same as this episode. But by being honest with that and actually going, do you know what? I don't know how life's going to turn out. I don't know whether I'm going to meet somebody who I'm going to fall in love with. I don't know whether I'm going to find a career that's meaningful, even though my career is meaningful. I don't know whether I'm going to have a purpose to ever live by myself. You know, there's so many questions that we will all be having that are circling our minds like a drain that just persists and it's blocked because we're not allowing it to run through. And by sitting with it, I've given myself permission to just be like, yeah, I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I have no idea where my life is going. And I don't have to force every single moment. I don't have to force answers. I don't have to fix myself. And by leaning into that and just sitting in the silence, I'm going, yep, I accept this is life. This is what's happening. But with that, that's the power, because we then stop trying to fix anything and we actually give ourselves a moment to be like, great, okay, that happened. Now what? And we take the next step. So there's many things that silence can offer us, apparently, and clearly it also gives me inspiration and motivation to talk and share. Because we don't have to be alone in our silence. We are alone within our own mind. We are alone with many things in life. But maybe the silence gives us the power to take the steps we need to. Maybe the silence is the thing we need to go out into this world and actually ask the right questions, to take the steps towards ourselves and to what we truly need, want, and desire. Maybe the silence turns the external noise down enough for us to truly start hearing the voice inside us. The one that says, this is the direction I need to take to live the best life I possibly can. Listen. Be. Breathe. Pause. Stop taking life so seriously. If you've enjoyed this episode, please comment and share. I'm really enjoying recording these moments with you. I'm really enjoying sharing myself with you guys. There's something about sharing yourself vulnerably with the world that can be so magnificent. And I'll be honest, I've been feeling sorry for myself, but the gift I want to offer to this world is the ability to truly find a life you enjoy. And within the pity, within the self-deprecation and misery, I do feel like I'm someone who's found a life worth living. For me, not anyone else, but for me. I have so much love, so much joy and so much beauty. I could cry. And my gift is to help you do the same. If I could help one person go out into this world and find a life they love, to find a life that works for them, not for society, but for them, then I feel like that's a pretty beautiful accomplishment. So I hope this gives you permission to go out and just sit in the silence, to start listening to your own inner voice rather than the voice of the world around you, to start following your own path instead of what society expects. I hope it's the chance for you to really hear the beauty that resides within you. Until next time.